welcome. Here we are. The first two arcs of One Piece. I'm going to lump the two of them together because they're both only 4 episodes apiece. So I figure, I'll just bunch them into one video. I have enough to say about both of them, but also, not enough to say about both of them. This is about as perfect of an introduction to a series as you can get. It immediately sets the tone. It just grabs you, the first couple minutes of the first episode, you don't even see Luffy. He's just in a barrel. I don't know why he's in a barrel. They never say why he's in a barrel. It doesn't matter that he's in a barrel. Who cares that he's in a barrel? Because he gets found, and he comes out of the barrel, and it very quickly becomes evident that he's not a normal guy. If at some point it was possible to watch One Piece and not knowing that Luffy was made out of rubber, if at any point there was any chance that you could start watching One Piece not knowing that, because obviously it's so iconic now. And there's a reason it's so iconic. It's because it's kind of ingenious, right? It just seems so obvious in retrospect now that it is a thing. It just seems like something that was like, oh yeah, guy made out of rubber. He just stretches a lot. Okay. And they immediately use it in a lot of really creative ways in this first episode where he fights the first pirates you see in the series, Alvida, and he befriends Kobe. And this also sets the precedent for characters coming back. I'll talk about that later on as we get farther into the series. But yeah, characters will disappear and then come back hundreds of episodes later. And it's great. So first episode, that's kind of it. It's just, he fights Alvida, he kicks Alvida's ass, he saves Kobe from Alvida, and Kobe wants to become a Marine. That's where we're at after those 20 minutes. It's not much, but it's a really great start. It gets you what you need, gets you to what you need to know to understand what's going on. And then they introduce the best to ever do it, Roronoa Zoro. Roronoa Zoro, the pirate hunter. This guy is he's just aura farming. He starts off aura farming, and he doesn't stop. He never stops aura farming. He's just he's set to be executed by the Marines. He disrespected he disrespected Axe Hand Morgan's son Helmeppo, and Helmeppo is he's this super shitty little brat that's just terrorizing everybody because he's the son of a Navy captain. And this is where we first get to One Piece villains being huge. This guy Axe Hand Morgan is massive. And it's not even he's not nearly as tall as people will get, obviously, but he's still, he's the first male villain in the series. This is the second episode still. And he's colossal. He is massive. And he just has an axe for a hand. He has an axe for a hand, and he has a metal jaw. It's a really solid design. It's a very scary design. It sets you up really well for it to just be like, oh shit, this guy's kind of scary, actually. So this conflict carries into episode 3. And episode 3 is when we first see this lady with orange hair. It's not revealed who she is. She's just kind of skulking around the Navy base. Or the Marine base, sorry. And you don't really know anything about her, but she's doing something. Luffy fights Morgan. Luffy beats Morgan. Morgan goes to prison. Kind of it. It's a really well done fight, obviously, but we're still establishing where we're at, right? We're not into the deeper character stuff that we'll get into later on yet. And actually, the character stuff starts in the very next episode when we go into the past a bit to see Luffy's backstory. Because as I've mentioned previously, he's just in a barrel at the start of the series. Unfortunately, this episode does not explain why he's in the barrel, but he is a child in this episode, and we meet a character named Shanks, who is this guy with red hair. He's got a straw hat on. It's a little unsubtle, but he is, for some reason, taking care of Luffy. I don't think they ever say why. I think he's just kind of around, and he hangs around Shanks a lot because he wants to be a pirate. Shanks takes him in, and he takes care of him, and then eventually Shanks loses his arm protecting Luffy from a sea king. It's one of these big, like, eel-looking monsters. It bites Shanks' arm off, and Shanks loses that arm, obviously. And something I didn't realize was that when I first started watching this series, I thought Shanks was just always missing the arm. I didn't know that there was ever an appearance that Shanks made where he didn't lose an arm. I didn't even realize that when I first watched the episode. I was like, oh shit, Shanks still has his arm. That's not quite right. But then he does lose that arm, and it really helps to cement the fact that, like, Shanks is kind of acting like he doesn't really give a shit about Luffy. He kind of acts like Luffy's just around, you know? But he cares, you know? Because he saves his life. He loses an arm to save his life. But Luffy, of course, also eats the devil fruit that Shanks was holding on to, which is the devil fruit that gives him his powers. If you don't know what a devil fruit is, if for some reason you're watching this series and you don't know what a devil fruit is, they're fruits that give you special powers, but they take away your ability to swim. And that's kind of it for Romance Dawn. That's all of Romance Dawn. Really solid setup. You've got our first two party members. You've got Luffy, you've got Zoro. Zoro's a part of the crew now, after he gets saved from Axe and Morgan. And now we've got this weird lady with orange hair, and we've got Shanks. Already, we've got we're building a cast of characters. And next, we get the best character. Buggy the Clown. That's right. He's just a clown. He just is a clown. Why is he a clown? Who cares? He's a clown, and that's his thing. And it's also the first time that we see somebody fight Luffy with another devil fruit power. You get a couple characters before that are just like... This always happens in One Piece. It's setting up a formula where you introduce the villain, and then all of the characters individually fight members of that character's crew. Like, Luffy fights this beast tamer guy with a big lion, and then Zoro fights a guy on a unicycle. But episode 6, in particular, stands out to me a lot, because when Luffy is fighting this guy and his lion, it's in the middle of, like, a town square in, Orange Town, I think it's called. There's a dog outside that's trying to fight this lion, and obviously it's not going very well, because it's a lion versus a dog, but it just can't stop fighting. It's I'm gonna say the phrase "the indomitable human spirit" a lot throughout this, because that is a huge theme in this whole series. That and the idea of inherited will. Both of those are, like, huge things. And obviously Luffy kicks the lion's ass, and then they go to find Buggy. And then Zoro's fighting a guy on a unicycle. There's this whole sequence where Buggy, like, knows who the orange-haired lady, Nami, is. For some reason. I don't really know why he knows who she is. They're not really associated with each other beyond this one interaction that they have, where Buggy's like, hey, fucking kill the guy. Because they've got Luffy in a cage. And Buggy is like, hey, shoot him with this cannon. And Nami's like, alright, bro, if you say so. Nami will go through this really strange arc in these first couple episodes where she just like exists. And then obviously there's greater character stuff beyond that. But Luffy fights Buggy, Buggy has an ability. He ate the chop chop fruit, which makes it so that he splits into many pieces. He can just split into a bunch of pieces, and then they tie up his body and send him flying, so that he's just hands, feet, and a head. He's like Rayman, but without a body. So then they just bitch him, and he flies away. Which, he will be back. No character in One Piece has ever gone forever. But that's kind of it for those first 8 episodes. Super simple stuff. Not really huge into the character stuff yet. We're just establishing stuff. But this formula that we've established, Luffy meets character, Luffy fights character that is antagonizing this character joins his crew. That will happen many, many, many times throughout this series. And flashbacks. Flashbacks and backstories. There are going to be a lot of backstories very soon. In these next couple episodes, there are so many backstories. Should I give it a rating? Should I rate these? It's a 10 for me. I think both of these are 10 out of 10 arcs. Just because, I mean, how could they not be? They're so short that even if they were bad, they would still be like, oh, well, at least it's over. You know? But it's like, they're both good. They set up the formula pretty perfectly. And yeah, that's kind of all I have to say about it, to be totally honest. Super short, simple stuff. But these next arcs get pretty damn long. They get long and fast. And next arc that we have is Syrup Village, which is one of my favorites. I love this shit so much. But yeah, that's going to be it for this one. Thanks for watching. Hope to see you next time. Bye-bye.